That woman over there keeps staring at me.
Do you know her?
No.
Well, here we are doing something we haven't done in a while. Except with Dune Part 2, I guess. Here at Movie Night Extravaganza, we're less worried about getting in front of whatever the newest movie is out than most movie shows probably are. We're here to have fun, talk about movies we usually enjoy, and less worried about getting a hot take or opinion out there before the discourse is calcified. And we are less interested in panning films and discussing the ones we find genuinely worth seeing. The discourse on Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, Kinds of Kindness, coming just months after Poor Things netted 11 Oscar nominations and 4 wins, including Emma Stone's Best Actress win, is very much up in the air. The rollout for Kinds of Kindness is ongoing.
Skinny men are the most ridiculous thing there is. We've gone over this before. You must put on a few pounds. I told you that last time.
So far, it's pretty polarizing out there, with many critics praising Kinds of Kindness for Yorgos' return to form as a misanthropic, funny, and experimental filmmaker and screenwriter, and others who seem to have taken the cruelty displayed on screen almost personally. But I do think that it's important to preface this on an extremely basic level. Kinds of Kindness is an anthology, even more specifically a triptych fable. There are 3 separate stories which take place in the same universe, but are not directly related except by the inclusion of one character. I think that it can be a lot harder to review anthologies than other forms of narrative filmmaking. The short films in an anthology inevitably must fall into the same rankings or scales as more cohesive singular piece as one overall unit. And yet they must also be compared to each other within that unit, and I think getting multiple stories written, even possibly at different times to reach perfect parity, is an impossible task for any filmmaker or screenwriter. So anthologies are by definition uneven pieces, I'd say. Kinds of Kindness will inevitably be compared to Poor Things as they're so intertwined. Yorgos Lanthimos is a fan of collaborating with the same people repeatedly, and Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Margaret Qualley are all here as returning stars. Yorgos has also chosen to keep collaborating with Robbie Ryan, the cinematographer behind Poor Things and The Favorite. Yorgos' editor, also named Yorgos, has been the one creative force he's retained for every single movie he's made. Jerskin Fendrix, who composed the score for Poor Things, also did the music for Kinds of Kindness. One of Yorgos' most recent central collaborators, however, is missing, which might say more than any of the people he invited in. After collaborating with the playwright Tony McNamara on 2 of his biggest recent successes, The Favorite and Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness is co-written not by McNamara, but by Efthimis Philippou, who co-wrote Dogtooth, Alps, The Lobster, and Killing of a Sacred Deer with Yorgos previously. And whether it's returning to his old writing partner or the experimental and extremely off-putting nature of this latest film, the film has been noticed by many fans of Yorgos' work as a return to his much more unsettling and less mainstream Dogtooth era.
Oh, thank you so much. Will you do me a favor? Will you just try this scarf on? It took me ages to pick it out. There are actually 4 that I liked, and I'm just curious to see if I made the right choice.
Wow. It's beautiful. I love it. I don't think it really goes with what I'm wearing today, though.
Oh, I think it goes perfectly.
Nothing about Yorgos Lanthimos' career has been preordained or could have been predicted. His first 5 films were not even in English, they were in Greek. They were mainly low-budget experimental psychological dramas. Kinds of Kindness has been noted as a return to that style for Yorgos. He said the budget is now in the millions of dollars, not the 250,000 euros of Dogtooth or the 97,000 euros of Alps just over a decade ago. The budget for Kinds of Kindness was $15 million, which is small by comparison to the $35 million budget for Poor Things. The mainstream success of Poor Things followed an increasingly popular British and American following for The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and The Favorite. Yorgos has benefited immensely from the rise of the A24 phenomenon, which purchased the distribution of The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer in North America. In 2022, even before Poor Things was released, Yorgos pitched Kinds of Kindness, then called RMF, and had it greenlit. But anthologies can be a tricky business, and just by default, the stories told within a full-length anthology feature are usually there because they're a good premise, but not one that a filmmaker wants to stretch into a full-length movie on their own. And Kinds of Kindness is 3 parts: the death of RMF, RMF is flying, and RMF eats a sandwich, feel like premises that would have been out of place worked into a full-length film. Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Margaret Qualley are joined in this anthology by Jesse Plemons, Hong Chow, Joe Alwyn, and Mamoudou Athey. The cast appears in all three stories as different characters. The only connecting thread, RMF, which I don't think stands for real motherfucker, is played by another guy named Yorgos. Where does he keep finding them? Each of the three parts took around 3 weeks to film back to back, as opposed to a shoot like Poor Things, which took half of 2021 just to do principal photography. Since these are separate parts, I do think that it would be helpful tonight to discuss them separately before discussing the film in its entirety. The death of RMF, like Yorgos and Philippou's 2009 Dogtooth, is a story of control and domination as Jesse Plemons plays Robert Fletcher, a man whose boss, Raymond, played by Willem Dafoe, controls every aspect of his life, from what he and when he eats, to what he reads, to when he has sex with his wife, played by Hung Chow.
Good afternoon, Robert. Don't just stand there, sit down. Were you waiting long?
No, 15 minutes or so.
Your hair's nice like that. Don't get it cut. Let it grow a little longer, and you've lost more weight, I think.
However, as the story darkens, and Raymond orders him to kill a man named RMF, who has agreed to be killed, Robert Fletcher begins refusing orders, leading to his delicately constructed life collapsing around him. Emma Stone plays Rita in this one, whose life is also controlled by Raymond, and who has also been ordered to kill RMF. Real motherfucker. This is the most straightforward of the three chapters, and has been used extensively to promote the film. I'm actually genuinely impressed that Jesse Plemons got himself back down to Breaking Bad weight here, just so Willem Dafoe can lecture him about needing to gain a few pounds. The second segment, and I'd personally argue the most uneven, RMF is Flying, has Jesse Plemons playing a cop named Daniel, whose wife Liz, a marine biologist played by Emma Stone, went missing at sea.
I didn't know you smoked, Liz.
I don't. I've never smoked. Can you believe that? I've never even tried.
When she is rescued by RMF in a helicopter and returns home, Daniel begins to become suspicious and paranoid that Liz is not his wife. After being stranded on a strange beach, only Liz and one of her colleagues lived, and her colleague's memory is blank. Liz's feet have grown, so she no longer fits in her shoes. Come on, man. And her interests and habits have all changed.
She asked me to fuck her in my uniform, and it hit me.
In trying to prove that his wife isn't his wife, Daniel begins to lose it, leading to a violent incident which gets him put on pills and treatment. The violence and brutality accelerates to the scenes where body parts are cut off, and this is probably the most grotesque and over the top of the three. The third part, RMF Eats a Sandwich, is the most fleshed out of the three, I think, and the least reliant on the type of grotesque, over-the-top violence that exists throughout this movie in all three parts.
My name is Rebecca King. I am 29 years old. I majored in literature and now work in the Human Resources Department of a multinational company. But that's not important. My sister Ruth, she's a veterinarian. Her clinic is on Kenneth Avenue, number 18. My sister and I are twins. I think my sister is the one that you're looking for.
Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are here as Andrew and Emily, two members of a strange sex cult. The cult is run by Willem Dafoe in a Speedo and his wife, played by Hung Chow. I think the part that goes a long way into fleshing it out is that it revolves around a prophecy. The cult believes that their messiah will be the living sister of a dead twin and will have the power to bring the dead back to life.
We are looking for something, actually, a nice, spacious, affordable apartment. I can't quite understand what it is you want
Listen.
from us.
Emily, here's Ruth's card. On the back is my address and phone number. If you met her, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you.
They also believe that having sex with people outside of the cult will lead to contamination.
To sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
They plan to put their messiah on a luxury super yacht, a nice boat, but being trapped at sea as basically a circus freak. Margaret Qualley plays a set of twins in this one, after playing Raymond's young sugar baby wife, and then the wife of Daniel's police partner in the other ones. Hunter Schafer makes a cameo too, in one of the few instances of an actress only appearing in one of the stories in a pretty sizable role. However, unbeknownst to the sex cult leaders at first, Emily keeps being pushed into contact with her husband, played by Joe Alwyn, who is a collectible appraiser and a very weird psychiatrist in the other two, and her young daughter, who she's abandoned to search for this messiah. The connecting line between these three stories is the character of RMF, who is killed and then sits in the morgue as a search is made for a resurrectionist. However, the use of the same ensemble of actors in every story, the similarity of the surroundings, the hospital, the morgue, the houses, And even the dialogue, which repeats the same phrases like kindness and cruelty, words like fish, meat, and fruit, and many different terms in different contexts throughout the film, gives the entire universe a nightmarish quality in the same way that you see the same familiar faces over and over again in dreams, even if their stories are different. So, after picking each story apart separately, we can talk about the whole thing at the end of the stream and try to parse it all out. In summation, though, I hope that we can tackle this anthology on its own terms, as it begs to be looked at that way, even as the task has been made far more difficult by the runaway success of Yorgos' last couple projects.
Ah! Ow! What the heck was that?